Hello, everyone, and thanks for listening. So, this, I'm sure, if you hadn't heard, FBI raids Department of Water and Power scandal poses political threat. And so I have to fix that because the word is close. So, let's see here. It's crazy because, let's see here. So, FBI raids Department of Water and Power scandal pose a political threat. And so I was shocked when I saw this, but not too shocked because, it's like a lot of times it's the people you trust the most that usually are involved in a lot of scandal. And so it's just crazy. But anyway, let me get into this. So, LA City Attorney Mike Fuhrer, shown in 2014, has not discouraged talk that he will run for mayor in 2022. Okay, so this is by Dakota Smith. So for years ago, 4 years ago, Los Angeles City Attorney Mike Fuhrer cast himself as a champion for the ratepayers, socked by wildly inflated bills after the Department of Water and Power rolled out a disastrous new billing system. So, facing a bank of news cameras in his City Hall office, the city attorney vowed to secure tens of millions of dollars from PricewaterhouseCoopers, the firm that oversaw the billing system's implementation. So Furrer also told reporters that he wasn't afraid that the global consulting firm would push back in court. So bring it on, he declared. So now the City Hall's handling of that case and its larger response to the 2013 Department of Water and Power billing debacle has created what may be the biggest threat to Führer's political future, including a possible run for mayor. And so FBI agents, they had raided just this week the city attorney office on Monday, serving search warrants on multiple staffers in the investigation into two cases that emerged from Department of Water and Power billing problems. Critics have questioned whether Führer exercised proper oversight of his legal team as it settled a class action lawsuit with thousands of utility customers. And they warn that the actions of his office could cause the case against PricewaterhouseCoopers to collapse, leaving Department of Water and Power and ratepayers on the hook for the cost of the troubling billing system. So Führer is set to be disposed, or I said deposed, deposed in coming weeks by lawyers for PricewaterhouseCoopers. Well, with all this going on, he might think they're going to expose him, and what's going on, and all of this stuff that's happening is going to get exposed as well. And somebody or some bodies are going down. So I'm adding that in there. So the consulting firm alleges that the city took part in a fraudulent scheme to control the outcome of the 2015 class action lawsuit. So Führer's office has denied that it was involved in any way or aware of the alleged scheme and has blamed outside attorneys it hired for any wrongdoing. So, speaking to the Times last month, he said that he has ordered an internal ethics investigation, which is ongoing. So the chips fall where let the chips fall where they may, or let the chips fall where they fall. That is, Führer said, adding that he takes his role very seriously in getting to the bottom of the allegations of double dealing by outside lawyers hired by his office who worked on the billing litigation. So Fuhrer is seen as a likely candidate for mayor in 2022. So people will remember this whole thing. When Mayor Eric Garcetti will be forced out of the term limits. So, and the city attorney hasn't discouraged talk of such a campaign, but it's likely that when the time comes, it'll run. He said he'll run for mayor. So he told this to the LA Times last month, adding, I have to earn that situation, and we're not at that point yet. And so the election is still 3 years away, so it's unclear how big an issue this will still be or will be to voters then. And still, political experts said it could expose Fuhrer to attacks over his integrity. So the image of FBI agents striding in the office, said Dan Schooner, who teaches political communications at USC and Pepperdine University, is not a good look. And it didn't look good. If you were watching like news media or some like social media outlet about the Department of Water and Power scandal thing, you've seen the FBI agents, they had their duffel bags in hand and tow, and they just kind of stormed in there and then they stormed out without a word as to what was going on. They didn't really let on to what was happening until now. Things are slowly being developed and coming out little by little. So the FBI, the raids also pose a challenge for Fuhrer in his present job, said Jaime Rigaldo, professor of emeritus of political science at Cal State, LA. Fuhrer has focused on high-profile issues, including immigration, banking, and homelessness during his tenure. People have thought that the city attorney office is above the fray, above politics. So to have this happen is troubling, he said. So he's been a positive force in the city for quite a while, but he might be remembered for something like this. And usually when there's like a bad situation such as this, being raided by the FBI, that's pretty big. So Fuhrer is a political veteran who has served both the city council and in the state legislature. So when he was elected city attorney in 2013, he was expected to bring order to the office that had become unpredictable under the predecessor of Carmen Truchtenich, whose volatile public persona ultimately turned off voters. So the Department of Water and Power, which is better known as DWP, already unpopular with many voters because of its poor customer service, began drastically overcharging some customers in late of 2013, with some bills inflated tenfold and more. So the culprit, Fuhrer said, was Prince Waterhouse Coopers, the consulting giant that had implemented the bill software. The city sued the firm in 2015, but the consulting firm eventually struck back in court, saying it had been found that evidence of fraud by attorneys working for the city. So Prince Waterhouse Cooper alleges that the attorneys worked both sides of the class action lawsuit over the billing errors filed by Van Nuys resident Antoine Jones that resulted in a $67 million settlement for ratepayers. So several class action lawsuits were filed against the city, but Prince Waterhouse Cooper alleges in the court documents that the city chose to settle with Jones so it could control the outcome of the settlement and avoid scrutiny of the Department of Water and Power billing system. So Jones hasn't been accused of wrongdoing. Fuhrer's office has cast blame on its outside counsel, New York attorney Paul Paradis, and Beverly Hills attorney Paul Kiesel, whom the office hired to work on the lawsuit against Prince Waterhouse Cooper. In court documents filed this month, attorneys for the city wrote that it appears Paradis drafted Jones' lawsuit against the city. So Kiesel told the Times that his work was done at the express direction of Führer's office. So attorney Ian Friedman, who represents Jack Lance Kroner, or Lance Schroner, the lawyer who filed the Jones lawsuit against the city, told the LA Times on Wednesday any contention that the city was unaware of the conduct of its outside counsel during the settlement process in this case would be misleading. So Paradis' attorney did not respond to the request for comment. Before stopping work for the city attorney's office earlier this year, Kiesel and Paradis had been working under a contingency agreement that would have paid them nearly 20% of any settlement or damages awarded in the city lawsuit against Prince Waterhouse Coopers. So the cities can hire outside attorneys to handle cases on contingency fee based only in certain safeguards are in place. If they're in place according to the 2010 California Supreme Court ruling. So attorneys don't try to maximize their profits at the expense of the public. So government agencies must retain control over the course and conduct of the case and oversee the outside attorneys according to the ruling. So today, Führer's oversight of the outside counsel is under scrutiny. So his office signed off on $30 million contracts for one of Paradis' companies in 2017. So DWP could comply with the terms of the ratepayer settlement. So Führer didn't know about the contract until earlier this year, said the city attorney office spokesman Rob Wilcox. So Führer's office also faces ethical questions over why attorneys allowed Paradis to represent the city in mediations in the Jones lawsuit. So given that the city attorney office knew that Paradis had at one point represented Jones, the city attorney had an obligation to closely monitor his outside attorneys, and he failed completely, said Hannes Court, president of Consumer Watchdog. So the only question is whether Führer was in on the scheme or just negligent. So Führer's office declined to respond for the comment, of course, to the criticism or explain why Paradis was allowed to advise the city in the Jones case, given that he had represented Jones at one point. So however, Wilcox spoke broadly, saying any actions taken by the outside attorneys with respect to the pursuant of filing of Jones versus Department of Water and Power were not disclosed to the city attorney office, and therefore it would not have been possible to oversee that conduct. So this Time staff, David Zanezer, contributed to this report. So this is crazy. It's like, man, it's almost like you saying just when it can't get any bad or any more bad than what it is, with all the things going on with immigration and drugs and all this, and now utility, Department of Water and Power in a scandal, caught up in that. It's crazy. What do you think about this? Man, if you saw earlier in the week, they were raiding and busting that place. It was super crazy. But they came in like gangbusters. You seen them with the jackets, said FBI on it. They had no words. They just like, boom, opened the door. They had their bags. They went in, got what they wanted, and went out. And they weren't playing. But with that being said, I'm going to let this video go. I'm not surprised. This is a developing story. We'll see what happens. Thanks for listening.